Joining us now, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We've talked stories just about the greatness and the legend of the Indianapolis Clowns. And we celebrate Juneteenth and this holiday today, and thought it was incredibly appropriate to bring on our next guest on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He will narrate the ESPN Baseball E60 special, which debuts coming up later on tonight, and it breaks down the Indianapolis Clowns and the legendary team, how that was put together. And you know him very well from Sunday Night Baseball. We know this to be true because half of DuBois County is here, and that's Scott Rowland's home county back in the day. I think once upon a time played alongside Scott Rowland. It is Doug Glanville who is joining us now. Hey, Doug, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, sir. How are you?
Yeah, such an honor to be part of it, and thanks for having me. And the teammate that I remember his hometown more than anybody was Scott Rowland in Jasper, Indiana. You know, so I'll always remember his story and quite a history.
Yeah, I'm here for the IHSAA State Baseball Finals. So we've got 4 games, 2 today and then 2 coming up tomorrow in 4 different classes. And it is so awesome to see, Doug, these kids play on the absolute best AAA and better than some major league ballparks, Victory Field here in downtown Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. It is an awesome scene that is set on this Juneteenth, certainly. And it's something I'm sure as a baseball fanatic as you are on so many different levels, this would be awesome for you because it's a great crowd.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I played at the first year at Victory Field when I was with the AAA, at least that version of it, AAA Des Moines, playing for the Iowa Cubs. So, you know, going back to 90, 95, 96 American Association. Yep. So it's great to see baseball being accessible, really, to everybody, and that's what you want to do with a game you love, right? You want everybody to be able to participate.
Yeah, and especially cultivating that on a younger level as they're doing right here. And I love what you're doing with this E60 documentary on the Indianapolis Clowns, because this is something that is often talked about around here. Such a legendary squad. How did you get involved in this? And it's a special day to have it as well, and so much has been put into it, you and your narration and just the background. How did all this get started for you, Doug?
Yeah, well, there was a producer named Blake Foman, and Blake and I worked together on a project a long time ago, and he just reached out and said, you know what, I'd love for you to narrate this story. And we were able to put it together, you know, pretty quickly. I mean, he did a lot of the heavy lifting, and I just said, all right, let me work with the script. And, you know, I learned a lot just reading about it. Just, you know, I watched the segments, and this Indianapolis Clowns history is so rich because this is the team that, you know, went beyond the Negro Leagues, right? The Negro Leagues had folded not really that long after Jackie Robinson, and they kept trying to reinvent themselves. The business was struggling. They lost a lot of the talent. And Indianapolis Clowns were very creative because they were showmen. They were trying to find ways to entertain beyond just the game. So they put on different skits and acts, and they made it fun. And they were able to continue on into the 80s, which was news to me when I learned how long they were able to extend, kind of working almost on their own. And so it became this cool American story about entrepreneurship, reinventing yourself, finding ways to entertain the fan, and bringing it together through Indianapolis. And Hank Aaron was, you know, an Indianapolis Clown, just as there were women with Tony Stone in the 50s. So they covered the bases. They made sure, as you described today, you know, players being able to be exposed to baseball early to celebrate it for any walk of life. And I think the Savannah Bananas and Banana Ball wanted to honor this history, recognizing that it was an inspiration for them. And they said, well, let's bring back the Indianapolis Clowns. And they were able to do that. And so 2026, they were able to, you know, kind of come back.
Yeah, it's a great mixture of the now and a celebration of what, you know, was constructed, the foundation to where we are today. And as you went over the legend of the Clowns here, What did you learn, and I guess what did and how did you feel about it moving along? Because as I've done research about this, Doug, in the past, it was so incredibly special, and really there was a lot of information that we didn't know until we got into more of a modern era about what was accomplished there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, 1943. I mean, first of all, they kind of they changed cities and kind of came to Indianapolis, and sort of forged the Clowns. And then shortly thereafter, about 4 years, Jackie Robinson broke in, and I guess I learned a lot about how there was this blending of being, sort of pioneering the entertainment side of it, which was beyond sort of the game, but there was also this element of trying to navigate a really tough time in America as we were sort of entering civil rights, and Jackie Robinson breaking in and using humor to kind of disarm and to make the game accessible and to bring everybody together. And it wasn't always popular, so to speak, because there was a seriousness that some of the players wanted to be taken because there was already this separation right between, color lines. And so the Clowns sort of tried to be this bridge across those lines using a different brand of entertainment on top of the game. And that was, so it was a complex story as well to go with the entrepreneurial spirit of trying to find ways to celebrate many that came before and after Jackie Robinson, because as Bob Kendrick of the Negro League Museum would say, he's like, well, we want to honor those that built the bridge, not just those who crossed it. And they were builders, and they were builders beyond just baseball. They were building in other ways of creating a business around the sport and making sure that all fans could enjoy it. And they were the ones that lasted. After the Negro League folded, they were still going. They were still going to 89. And I think what's so cool is Savannah Bananas and the Banana Ball Revolution, they recognize that the spirit of what they do came from this tradition. And they're a big part of elevating it in a way to honor and recognize that it's still impactful today to fans of baseball.
Yeah, the accommodation of the Indianapolis Clowns and the Savannah Bananas, you can see coming up later on tonight, and a part of that E60 project as the narrator is from Sunday Night Baseball, the former Major Leaguer Doug Glanville, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Does it all surprise you in the modern day with the Savannah Bananas, the incredible amount of popularity that has been built in such a short amount of time?
Well, I mean, and that's part of the journey that I learned, that it took them a while to build it, and they had a lot of failures. They had a lot of stop-starts. They were broke for a while. They took some big risks, but then to see that the fabric of it goes back to these roots when you're going back to the 40s, and you say, well, yes, this is something that, it can fit today, and it certainly has in 2026, where you get these huge crowds and football stadiums. And it comes back to the basic joy of what going to a ballpark with family and friends, laughing, kind of living outside the lines, right? Playing outside the rules and still finding connection. So, no surprise there. They found the sauce. They were dedicated, and they kind of pulled the spirit of what the Indianapolis Clowns were about, that they kept trying. They kept trying, and they kept bringing in new ideas. They brought women into baseball with Tony Stone and others. And they just made sure we understood that this game is for everybody.
Doug, you mentioned this too, that you had, as you said, the serious players and then those that were just there to create a lot of fun. And especially now, that's an interesting dynamic, because that's tough to navigate. I mean, it really is, compared to being the entertainment, but. You want to be seen, but you also want to be seen, for example, as, I guess, for lack of a better description, a serious artist. And that had to be a difficult dynamic.
I mean, that's a great point, because I learned a lot about how did the players feel like when you're trying to create and have relevance in the sport where you were really denied access, before Jackie Robinson and others came through the door. You're worried that if you have something that's not 100% serious, that you would not be taken seriously. Yep. And I think that's part of the complexity of the Indianapolis Clowns story. But it's all part of it. It's all part of showing the diversity of a way you can entertain and the talents you have that combine that great athleticism, great business sense, great entrepreneurial spirit, great sense of community, great joy and humor and laughter and comedy. All that was part of sort of one, time and sort of one people that was trying to get access and sort of be part of something. So it was complicated, I'm sure. And the players were also like, well, I want to make sure I'm known as a center fielder, not just a center fielder and, an entertainer, a comedian, or whatever it was. So the Clowns, they struck the balance, and they lasted the test of time. That's what's so remarkable. And it's a great thing to see Indianapolis honored in their contribution to this team and being the home base and how it's been brought back. So Indianapolis is such a huge part of that history and really truly across all of baseball history.
It is called Return of the Clowns. The documentary traces Clowns, the Indianapolis Clowns, 1930s Negro League icon to rebirth in Banana Ball. Return of the Clowns debuts, that is later on tonight. 9 o'clock on ESPN, and the narrator is former Major Leaguer, Sunday Night Football, analyst work all over the place, doing a great job with MLB. Doug Glanville is with us. It's funny, you mentioned the guys trying to be serious and there being that dynamic between serious and having fun. It's like when you're younger, for example, Doug, when I watched the Harlem Globetrotters or when Meadowlark Lemon sprouted off to the Buccaneers, I was young. I didn't really realize it. They're fun to watch, but I always thought that, Meadowlark Lemon and Curly Neal, those guys were just great basketball players. But when you're trying to impress people that know that it's just for fun, it's much different. So that would have to be, if you were a serious player, one of the more difficult things in the world to try to accomplish.
Yeah, and in this documentary, you see a little bit of players coming and trying to balance that, right? Because one of the players that is part of this is Jackie Bradley Jr., right? So we know he had a major league career. He played for 11 seasons, and he's trying to, figure out that balance. But his kids became the inspiration for him to kind of go, Dad, just do this, because we have so much fun watching it. So it just became another portal of access. And so even the players that may have had these major league careers still recognize the joy in it. And a lot of these players, certainly, like you mentioned, Curly Neal, they had some skills. There's no doubt. There's many AA, AAA. There's players that have played baseball. So I think it's really hard to be already really good at the sport, but then also know how to balance it to create it, make it fun, and do these trick plays. And that's a different kind of skill. It's really difficult. And they make it very enjoyable. So it's a cool thing to see.
It is awesome, and with the Clowns, that has just been of such legend around here. It is awesome to see you a part of this project, and so much of what we would commonly talk about more on a personal level be out there for everybody to get. This was, I think, just a tremendous idea that you're involved with here that we're going to see later on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I was honored to just be considered. I got the call. I read the script. I was like, wow, this is really cool to be part of it. And we put it together in terms of that part fairly quickly. And you mentioned Juneteenth and the sense of freedom, for our country where everyone is free. That's such a great day to honor and recognize in American history and just history in general of the world. And to see how baseball is right through that heart is really something to be part of, because you really you see how baseball can represent that, all the greatest ambitions and the possibilities for everybody to be free in this country. And I was just blown away to be part of it, and just reading it and then watching it, I realized that this story is important to be told, and it's very cool that Indianapolis is at the center of that for the community that's listening now on today, because that's you'll see Indianapolis through and through, and the comeback tour and all that. It's very cool.
It is Doug Glanville of ESPN, the former major leaguer, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I didn't want to bring up a couple of MLB questions for you now. I'm kind of curious. Obviously the Dodgers are always at the forefront. We'll start right here. What's your biggest inspiration so far this season in baseball? Great story, and then the biggest disappointment, because I think I have my finger on the pulse of the biggest disappointment for me, but I'm kind of curious who it might be to you.
I mean, it's hard to nail down because the American League is having a tough time. I mean, you think about what they're dealing with, whether it's the Boston Red Sox, they're upside down. You look at teams like the Detroit Tigers, which I was like, okay, they're going to punch through. They got Framber Valdez. They're going to keep moving. And you're like, what's happening? And even the American League West, that you saw teams like Seattle improve, and you know Houston's always there. The American League is having a lot of those stories. So I don't know if I pick one in the American League, whether it's Detroit or Boston, but they're having some really tough times. The New York Mets are up there in the what the heck is going on story.
Yeah.
And I love the Central and how they were for a long time, just like everybody's above 500. You got good rivalries, and a lot of fun just watching Milwaukee Brewers just do Milwaukee Brewer baseball every year. So,
you wonder when
crazy, right?
when they're going to break through in the postseason too. You're kind of still waiting on that because they're doing what is normalcy for them in the Central right now, but you kind of wonder in the postseason when they're going to break through. I will say this as a Reds fan, I'm incredibly disappointed at 35 and 38, especially after the April they got started off to what has transpired since that point in time. So there's my finger pointing at Nick Kroll and the Reds because it's obvious right now, even with injuries that's compromised them, Doug, they don't have enough of what is necessary, in particular in that bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pitching issue. And, I mean, we had Terry Francona on our podcast earlier this year, and it was when like you said, they had that very good start. The concern was like, well, the run differential was a little bit of a problem, right? It was like, are they as good as the record because they were getting outscored on average? And so the talent was there much more on the run prevention pitching side, and that has, faltered, and with health, and also you mentioned the bullpen, and that's going to get you in trouble. But, you look at the Central and you say, well, the Reds, they're going to if they stay close enough to make a move at the trade deadline to get better and maybe get some arms or get healthy, and they're in a division that's close, that can be a positive for them to be able to kind of leapfrog some teams and stay in it if they're, the wild card race is still a thing, because right now the Brewers are rolling, and, I think the Cubs are also pretty good, also not playing super well. So there's, Central gives them a shot, and Terry Francona was great to play for. I know he's going to be all in, and I think they'll give him the resources to do that.
Man, they need it. There's no doubt about that. Doug Glanville is with us. As a former player, how did you feel this time of year? So we're, 3 or so weeks away from the All-Star break. How was your body feeling? How were you feeling at this time as a player when you were involved?
I was feeling great because the summer you start to heat up, and all of a sudden every day you're not freezing in April in Chicago anymore. This is a good time of year. The dog days start to hit you maybe August, when you start to go, wait a minute. There's a lot of baseball left, and especially when you're 23 games out. So, but the All-Star game is such a great show, and of course you're hoping to make it, but you're also, if you don't, you're like, okay, I could use a couple days off and take a breather and reset here.
Yeah, that it is getting into gear. There's no doubt about that. Doug, I can't thank you enough for coming on here today. I know that you've been traveling everywhere. It's probably difficult, but spending time with us, we thank you very much for that, because this has been incredibly special. And I want to remind people again, the documentary is later on tonight. Friday, June the 19th, as it says right here, 9 o'clock tonight on ESPN. It's called Return of the Clowns. This is going to be fantastic. And thank you so much for the inspiration of being involved and helping tell the story that so many people around here know, but maybe a lot of people nationally don't, man. It makes it extra special for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me, and I look forward to it. And reach out anytime, anytime you want me to join the show, and also your feedback on what you thought about the documentary would be great.
You got it, pal. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Doug, thank you very much. Doug Glanville was awesome right there. That was spectacular, James. Well done.